Hey guys, welcome to my video. My name is Dr. Tom LaHue, and today it's all about Enneagram for Dummies. Now, I don't think you're a dummy, but this is a video designed for those who may not really know anything about the Enneagram. You heard about it at work, you heard about it at church, one of your friends was talking about it, and you're like, what is this anyway? What is this about? Well, the Enneagram is a personality profile system that helps you understand more about yourself and the people that you interact with. Now, before we get into this video, just a reminder, in the description below is a link to my website, tomlahue.com. I do offer Enneagram coaching. I have a 3-month present to life coaching program, as well as many different course options on the Enneagram and other topics related to personality and self-development and self-improvement. So check the website out. I'd love to interact with you. But let's get started into today's discussion. So now, let's assume that you've just heard about the Enneagram and you understand, the basics. This is a personality thing, but how do you figure out what your type is? I have no idea what my personality type is. Well, let's just begin at the beginning. The Enneagram suggests that there are 9 basic personality profiles, or there's 9 basic different personality types. And sometimes people that are very familiar with the Enneagram, they'll just use the numbers, and somebody will say, oh my goodness, you're such a 4. Oh my goodness, I'm such a 6, And you'll hear those numbers, but they, of course, don't mean anything to you if you don't understand what those numbers signify. Well, the Enneagram says there's 9 different personality types. And so let's just take a second and go around that and look at each one of those. And you'll notice like these lines, it kind of looks like a star. It's not really a star. The symbol really isn't a star. It's really just kind of lines that show connections between the personality types. And so even though a person might be a 9 or a 1, they have a line to other numbers. And the idea is that sometimes under stress or sometimes when everything's going well, you might pick up some of the attributes or look a little bit like one of the numbers that you have a line to. Okay? So let's just start with the beginning and start with type 1. And actually, before we do that, one of the most helpful things about the Enneagram that we really don't talk about much is it's helpful just to realize that there are other perspectives out there. Now, some of you guys get this, and others of us have a hard time with this, but the reality is not everybody sees the world the same way. And the Enneagram really helps us to see that from the beginning, is that there's 9 basic perspectives or 9 different ways to sort of interact in the world. And just knowing that can be very helpful, because sometimes you'll see people doing things or saying things that just don't make sense to you. And you think, why would somebody do it that way? Why would somebody do a relationship that way? Or why would somebody be so fearful or timid or so demanding and strong-willed or so opinionated and judgmental? And what you realize is, they have a different way of sort of orienting to the world around them. You could think of them a little bit like software systems. Like we're all computers, we're all humans, but there's 9 basic software systems or 9 basic programmed default settings, and it's going to affect how you interact and how you make decisions and all your motivations, whether you know it or not. So knowing it is so helpful, because once you see it or once you realize that you're programmed in a certain way, you can begin to ask the question, does this always work for me? Does this default setting that I'm running, does it always work for me? In other words, is it helping me reach my goals in life? And actually, sometimes the way your personality is designed might actually keep you from moving toward what you really want in life. And observing that and catching that and learning to sometimes push back on your impulses or your compulsions of your type can be the path forward for you. And this is what I do in Enneagram coaching. You hear Enneagram coaching, you're like, what is this? Well, it's helping people move toward what they really want in life and seeing how their personality structure or their personality type sometimes hinders us from moving forward. Every life coach is all about set goals, clarify goals, aim high, push yourself, challenge yourself. And that's all well and good. It's great. But sometimes they're missing this component that you're already very motivated. Whatever type you are, you already have these fundamental drivers or these fundamental motivations based on your personality type. And they're 100% predictable. And sometimes, they're not always working for you. And so it's very hard for you to move toward what you want in life or really accomplish your goals because you already come with goals. You already come with a motivational system based on your Enneagram type. Okay, so enough talk. Let's jump into each of these types. And let's just start with type 1. Type 1s are called the perfectionist or the reformer. Type 1s tend to be people who are very focused on doing the right thing, who want to know what is correct, they want to be good, and they bring this value into the world around them, which is a wonderful thing, to encourage people to move toward what is correct and what is right. Sometimes they could become a little bit harsh or judgmental when it's overplayed. And the animal that symbolizes type 1s is the bumblebee. Very busy, complying with what needs to be done, doing the responsible thing, making sure all the tasks are done, making sure that, hey, it's Saturday, it's the day we work outside, it's the day we get the lawn done. So think of these as the principals or the managers, the dutiful person who's making sure that everything is as it should be in the world. And again, when overplayed, they might become a little bit critical or harsh. And, the never ever behavior to a 1 is never criticize a 1, which is kind of ironic because 1s tend to be very critical themselves, critical of others, but very critical of their own performance. Okay, type 2s. Type 2s are called the givers and the helpers, and these tend to be warm, thoughtful, caring people, big hearts who want to help others and give care and nurture to the rest of us. Now, 2s, when that strength is overplayed a little bit, they can sometimes become a little bit frustrated when other people aren't responding to them with the same kind of attention, affection, and care and concern. And so it's easy for 2s sometimes to get hurt because other people aren't necessarily reciprocating your kindness back to you. The animal for the 2s is the Saint Bernard. Think about the dog that's, the proverbial cartoon dog that comes running when a person's in trouble, a person's in need. And 2s have that kind of instinct, oh, this person looks like they need help. Oh, this person looks lost. Oh, this person looks like they need somebody to listen to them. And so 2s feel this need to be present to that person, to take care of them, and get a sense of value in taking care of others. And like I said, when this is overplayed a little bit, they might start to feel a little bit like a martyr, like they're giving their lives and their energy away to people who are not being grateful, to people who are not being thankful. And, the never ever behavior for a 2 is never take a 2 for granted. And the reality is sometimes we do. We just start to expect that, well, of course, they're going to show up and say something nice. And of course, they're going to show up and offer support. We just come to expect it. And that really is a mistake. We should always show thanks and appreciation to the 2s in our life. Say, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support and your kindness. A little bit goes a long way with 2. Sometimes all they need is just a little bit of an indication of your gratitude, and it builds them up and fills their lungs with air again, the air of appreciation. Okay, type 3s. Now, these guys are called the performers. Or the achievers. And type 3s are very focused on knowing what's next, knowing what the next goal is, and then pushing themselves to overcome the obstacles to accomplish those goals. So these people are very driven, very focused on getting to the next level, and they remind us of that importance of setting goals and pushing ourselves and not giving in to status quo, and they can bring so much to the teams that they're a part of. But sometimes, when this is overplayed, 3s can, wear themselves out performing and maybe disconnect from their feelings or disconnect from their emotions and not really be emotionally present for the people in their lives. They can be so hyper-focused on accomplishing the next goal that they never really stop to ask, why do I really need to do this? What is this really giving me? When I get to the top of this ladder and I get to the very top, am I ever really going to celebrate, all that I've accomplished? And why do I feel like I need this feedback constantly, this admiration from others? I mean, am I doing all of this because it's what I really want to do? Or am I doing all of this so that other people will notice and be impressed with my performance? And the never ever behavior for a 3 is never ignore a 3. Because when you ignore a 3, imagine they have to then step up their game and try even harder, or maybe they could just become very discouraged and just kind of lose all of their passion and all of their I always think of like the young, teenage boy who goes out for the football team and comes home and says, "Dad, I just made the football team." And his dad says, football's nothing like it was when I was a kid. Back then we didn't use pads. We had to just, bust each other, and you broke your hip, and this 3 becomes very discouraged because dad's not giving him the admiration that he thought he would. So he says, "Well, Dad, not only did I try out for the football team, but also I made the honor society." "Oh yeah, school isn't near as hard as it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, you didn't have multiple choice questions. You had to really know something back then. Nowadays they just babysit." And "Dad, not only did I make the football team and make the honor society, but Dad, I just got a job, and the manager said that I could become an assistant manager." "Oh yeah, no." You see, when you ignore, and it's going to be very discouraging to this 3. He's going to have to push himself or herself even harder, or maybe they could just get very discouraged and lose all motivation and become very dark. Okay, now type 4s are called the individualist or the romantic. And I think every 4 kind of moves toward one of those or the other, but you may very well, if you're a 4, feel like you're very much both of those. But the individualist is the person that kind of wonders where they fit in the world. They see all the people out there interacting and all the normies, all the normal people, and they kind of look at this and they're like, "I don't feel like I fit in. Like, I wish I could be normal, but I have to be true to myself, and I have to be true to my inner voice. And I see what everybody else likes, and I see what everybody else is doing, and I don't feel like I'm one of them. I don't feel like I'm a part of that. I feel like I'm on the outside looking in." And 4s can have this very romantic view of life and relationships, that they ought to be very dramatic and very spontaneous, and they tend to be very creative. They tend to like the arts and like all kinds of forms of authentic expression. 4s hate it when people are fake or phony. They don't like to talk about the mundane things of life, football and the weather, and they like to talk about the deep, important, significant things in life. And 4s can be very complicated people sometimes. I forgot to mention 3s. The animal for the 3 is the peacock. "Hey, look at me." And 4s, the animal is the cat. You kind of hold a cat and they're purring and you think everything's okay, but then the claws come out and you don't understand why, and the cat runs away. And 4s kind of have this push-pull dynamic in relationships where they want to be connected to you, but they also want to remain an individual. They also feel the need to be separate and apart and differentiate themselves. And if you try to solve 4's problems, by telling them what to do, what is the never ever behavior for a 4? Never tell a 4 what to do. Because 4s are listening to that inner voice. They're listening to their intuition. They're listening to their feelings to guide them. And when you tell a 4 what they should do, you say, "Oh, well, I think your problem is what you did here. You need to be more." They're going to tend to feel like you're minimizing and diminishing them, and minimizing and diminishing their problems, and not really understanding them. 4s often feel very misunderstood. Okay, let's talk about type 5s, the observer or the investigator. Now, 5s are those heady, cerebral types that like to stay back out of all of the commotion. They often feel like their energy would be drained or is drained by the people around them and by the demands and obligations of people around them. So they tend to remain a little bit unaffected, a little bit detached from others and their problems. And they like to try to solve things and figure things out. They want to understand the world. Knowledge is power, and understanding the world around us makes us feel very competent, makes us feel like we have some kind of ground to stand on. And 5s, they tend to be very good at dealing with problems and solving problems, but sometimes 5 will describe it as like they missed a class somewhere along the way on how to connect and have relationships with others. They sometimes, could be seen as a little bit like an island unto themselves. Like, I'll have trade negotiations with you, but why are you on my island? Like, why are you in my space? Why are you making these demands on me? I don't make demands on you. I treat you with some distance and some boundaries. Why are you not treating me with that? You're overwhelming me with your demands, your energy, your volume in which you speak. You know, the animal for the 5 is the owl. Think of that old barn owl sitting up there looking down and trying to understand everything that's going on, but detached away from the rest of the group. And when they do have some contribution, and the old owl hoo-hoos, you know, down to the rest, the other people think, oh, were you even here? I didn't even realize you were here. And, well, they tend to want to connect by sharing information with you. They tend to want to connect by telling you something they learned or something they saw, something on social media, something that could make your life better or help you understand the world around you. And the never ever behavior for a 5 is never underestimate a 5. You know, you might look at them and see them as somebody who is quiet or somebody who is detached, and you may not think that they could come through and accomplish everything that's in front of them. And you might be surprised because 5s, you know, they have a way of taking duct tape and toilet paper rolls and, you know, wrapping paper and putting together an air filter that could save you if you were ever trapped on a rocket in space, which you might be if you were with a 5. Okay, so let's talk about type 6s. Type 6s are called the loyalist / skeptic. And they're the only type that has like this name / other name. There's other names for them, the guardian, the trooper. But I like the loyalist / skeptic because they are 100% for you, and then they start to wonder if maybe you're not being genuine or authentic, and then now they start to flip and become very skeptical. These are the good citizens out there that make up societies, communities that want to work together and support each other. The animal for the 6 is the deer, you know, a little bit cautious, overcautious, and they move together as a herd, supporting one another, giving assurance to one another, helping each other through the scary things that exist in life. And 6s, they are a fear type, and they may at times look like they are projecting their fears out into the world, saying, what do you think would happen if we got a new manager? Do you think that he's going to be supportive of our teams, or do you think he's going to eliminate our teams? What do you think would happen if he decided to eliminate our teams? What would we do? And they have this tendency to spiral in their thinking, problem solving, trying to figure things out, trying to get ahead of things. They want to see what the problems are, and then they want to warn others. Hey, take shelter, be prepared, make sure that you're ready for this. I'm not going to try to convince you what to do, but you need to be informed. You need to know what you are facing. And the never ever behavior for a 6 is never lie to a 6. 6s are always scanning their environment, feeling unsafe and unsure, and so they're looking for clues to help them understand what's coming next. Now, when there is a crisis, 6s tend to be very focused, very competent, but when everything is going fine, 6s sometimes wonder what's going to come at me next. They can handle any problem if they can see it, but they get a little nervous when they know there's something going on, but they can't identify what the source of that problem is. Okay, 6s, concerned, responsible, and then maybe sometimes very skeptical. Skeptical of the government, skeptical of the news media, skeptical of their boss, skeptical that you're being honest with them. So never lie to a 6. Always tell them the truth, even if it's hard for them to hear it. They would much rather hear the truth than to find out later that you were trying to protect them in some way by misleading them. All right, type 7s. This is what I am. I'm a type 7. Type 7s are called the enthusiast or the adventurer. There's other titles like the Epicurean, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. 7s are positivity, optimistic type people who are focused on what are we going to do today? Can we have some fun? Do we need some excitement? 7s tend to bring happiness and joy and excitement with them everywhere they go. They tend to look for opportunities. They have a fear of missing out. They're afraid that being stuck in pain or stuck in in boredom feels very painful to a 7. They often are very humorous. They sometimes are the class clown. They could be quite annoying at times if you're trying to create order, and they like to, sort of rise above that and depart and go their own way. The animal for the 7 is the monkey. And 7s kind of have this monkey mind, that has a hard time focusing, a hard time concentrating. I think of this being the kid, Mrs. Johnson, can we watch this DVD? And Mrs. Johnson says, we just put on this one. Let's watch this one first. Mrs. Johnson, can we go outside and play? Mrs. Johnson, I need to go to the bathroom. Mrs. Johnson, really funny thing happened to me this weekend when I was with my parents at the cabin. Let me tell the whole class. And 7s, they love to be entertained and they love to entertain others. They tend to get bored easily and have a hard time concentrating and focusing because their monkey mind just kind of moves all over the place. They can be very productive, but it's kind of only if they're in the mood to be productive. It's hard to comply with what needs to be done in life sometimes. And the never ever behavior for a 7 is never try to control a 7. Never try to control a 7 because the 7 will kind of slip through your fingers. If you try to lock them in, even like with a calendar and say, okay, so you're going to be here on Tuesday the 7th, at whatever time, it's going to feel restraining to them and you might see them teleport away and slip away from you. All right, let's talk about type 8s, the challenger. This is the tough, no-nonsense person that, the maverick, that doesn't want to be told what to do. They want you to listen to instructions and do what you're told, but they don't want to be controlled by others. They have this sense that I need to be in control of my voice. I need to be in control of my space. I don't like it when other people try to tell me what to do or try to control me. The animal for the 8 is the bull. Just kind of like a bull in a china shop. Just, hey, this is who I am. You get what what you see is what you get. And I just tell it like it is. I'm frank with people and I'm just straightforward. And if they can't handle that, then I don't know what to tell you. And they have this big, dominant, powerful sense of like they own their space in the world. And if the temperature's not right on the air conditioner, then they feel like it's up to me to go out there and change that. And if somebody gets upset with me, what was I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? So just think like this New York brash kind of, I have a right to own my voice. I have a right to own my space. They empower others when they're doing well. They give this power away and they help you to realize that you have, this power for yourself. But when they're not doing well, they kind of disempower others and humiliate others and go straight for the jugular, or juggler. Juggler? Okay, so 8s, big, powerful people. And what's the never, ever behavior for an 8? Never betray an 8. Never betray them. When they open themselves up, that rough exterior moves aside, they let down their drawbridge, and they welcome you into their fort. They do have very much a fort mentality. When they welcome you into their fort, then you better be true to them and, be on their side and be on their team. And probably their greatest fear is that the people that they love and care about and know really well and they've opened up to and they've been vulnerable with will use that vulnerability against them and turn out to prove to not be their friend or not be trustworthy or to become a hostile to them. So 8s, big, bold, brash people who have a tender side to them that they show on occasion with the people that they love and care about. Protectors. Okay, and then finally type 9. The peacemakers. The dreamers out there on the Enneagram. The mediators, the referees. These kind, gentle people, usually, sometimes 9-wing 8s can be a little bit more brash, but these people, they go out into the world feeling like you can't fight with life, you can't fight with everybody, you have to learn to adapt to get along, try to value other people's perspectives, try to see them where they are and walk in their shoes, and keep an open mind. And the greatest thing you can have is peace and harmony and comfort and tranquility. And they work really hard to maintain that peace and harmony. Sometimes minimizing themselves in order to get along with others. Sometimes not being able to hear their own dreams or their own plans or their own ideas or their own values. They listen so carefully to everyone else and make space and room for everyone else. They sometimes forget to make space for themselves. The animal for the 9 is the elephant. You know, it can sometimes be hard to get an elephant moving, but once they are moving, it's amazing how productive they can be. I mean, they could go all day once they get going. And 9s sometimes have a hard time getting going because they don't always know what they really want in life. They see other people moving, you know, forward, going after what they want, and the 9 thinks, yeah, I'm not sure what I want. And even when I do sometimes figure out what I want, it seems like a lot of trouble to go after it. Like you're going to upset people and it may not really work out. And sometimes 9s could look like they're having a hard time getting started, or that they're having a hard time getting motivated, but they're very motivated. They're motivated for peace, harmony, comfort, and tranquility. And they bring that into the world. They tend to soothe and calm situations down. People go to them like a therapist sometimes to work through their problems and to hear their calming presence, their calming voice in our lives. You know, I always think about palm trees like with 9s. They tend to bend with people, but they don't often move from their positions or from their standing. And their perspective on things is, I don't think the way you do. I see both sides. And I don't understand why we can't see both sides and respect each other's perspectives and still have harmony and get along with one another. The never ever behavior for a 9, the never do this to a 9 is never talk over a 9. Which is very easy to do. These mild-mannered people sometimes will let you talk over them, and when you do talk over them, they're just going to kind of stuff it down and push it down and maybe become more stubborn. And so 9s, you know, listen to their opinions. Listen to them. They spend a lot of time listening to us, and we need to listen to their opinions, and we got to slow down and make sure that we allow them to have the space and that we challenge them to know themselves and to know their thoughts and ideas. So there's a crash course on each of the types, and you'll notice now that there are lines that show the connections between each types. For example, type 1s have a line to 7 when they're doing really well. They look a little bit more positive and optimistic and free-spirited like a 7. When 1s are not doing well, they have a line to 4. They start to get moody and depressed and feeling like they don't belong to the group, and I'm the only one trying to get this right, and how come everybody else is frustrated with me? I'm the only adult in the room. So they feel like they don't fit in. They feel like they don't belong. Look at type 2s. They have an integration line to 4. They start to know themselves and not feel like they have to serve and take care of everybody else's needs. They start to go inward and investigate the beauty and the richness of an inner life, and are a little less focused on meeting everybody else's needs as a source of gaining value. And under stress, 2s have a line to 8. You know, they can be more direct and more straightforward, and also just bigger and able to handle the stresses of life. I always think about, you know, you coming home and telling your mom who's a 2 or your dad who's a 2, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Our whole choir has to bunk down for the night. We have nowhere to go. Can we use the house? And that 2, watch them look like an 8. Sure, it's no problem. I'll get all the towels. We'll make pancakes. And they just get bigger and take care of the needs of the people around them. And under stress, you know, 2s might become more straightforward, more direct, and just bigger than maybe you realized they were. Okay, type 3s, they have a line to 6. When they integrate to 6, it means they don't feel like they have to perform and outperform everybody else as much. They relax that a little bit, and they're able to join the team. They're able to give support to others and encourage others to become the best that they can be. When 3s are not doing well, they look a little bit like 9s. Disengaged, physically present, but no longer driven, no longer excited, no longer passionate, just kind of there, taking up space, but kind of going dark. 4s integrate to 1. This emotional, tumultuous person becomes more focused on just getting their work in front of them done. They're able to push back some of that emotional stuff and some of those overwhelming feelings and some of that stormy volatility, and they're able to just look at what needs to be done and show up and be present to life as it is and get more focused on doing the things today that need to be done. Under stress, 4s can look a little bit like a 2. Feeling very emotionally needy, feeling like they're disconnected and they need to reconnect with others, being sweet and kind, but maybe not being authentic and true to themselves. 5s integrate to type 8. when they're doing well, they can take their big ideas and their challenging thoughts and they can present them on the public stage and challenge us with good information and help us to realize that maybe some of our assumptions in life are built, or maybe our beliefs are built on false assumptions. Think like the iconoclast, one of the names for the five. They're able to challenge our belief systems with accurate information. And able to step up and get their work done. You know, they could overthink things and have a hard time actually showing up and getting it done, getting whatever that assignment is done or that responsibility done. Fives disintegrate to 7, bouncing around without focus, feeling like they need one more class or one more book, you know, to help them fully understand before they're able to take action, or becoming experts in things like, you know, that don't really matter, and kind of like looking like a 7, focused on Star Wars or Star Trek or Klingon, and you know, you could be splitting atoms in a laboratory, but you're memorizing, you know, all of the Pokemon characters. Are you a 7? Okay, 6s integrate to 9. That worried panic state starts to give way to a peaceful calm where they realize, you know what, I think I've done everything I need to do. There's nothing else I can do except let life happen. I think it's going to be okay. I can have peace. I've talked through my problem and I feel like I'm calming down. Under stress, 6s look like 3s. I got to get ahead of this. I got to prove that I'm not the one they should let go. I've been the longest, most faithful, dedicated employee here. I've got to prove to everybody that I'm the one that should be kept, and others, okay. So that feeling like they've got to outrun their problems or overperform or make sure other people realize their worth and value. Okay, type 7s integrate to 5s. We're able to focus more, not bounce around. We're able to concentrate. We start to say maybe less is more. Maybe I can control my energy. Maybe I don't need to escape all of the time. I can focus, concentrate, and I can be satisfied and content. 7s disintegrate to 1. Getting frustrated and disappointed because we can't do all the things, because there's somebody who's holding us back, or there's some problem that we're stuck in. And we start to get discouraged and disappointed and critical and rigid, and we look a little bit like an unhealthy 1. Okay, 8s integrate to 2. They start to come toward people to offer help and assistance, not coming at them, you know, to steamroll them, but coming toward them to empower others, to help others gain their voice again, to bring help and assistance and care. They start to move with people. Under stress, 8s look a little bit like 5s. They withdraw, they become more calloused, they become more independent, they put walls up, and they don't want to be affected by this anymore. They don't want to have conversation anymore. They want to move away, and they want to be left alone. 9s in health look a little bit like 3s. They start to move forward with goals. They start to feel more driven. They start to go after things. They start to have a focus and a direction in their life. And they say, you know what, it's okay for me to want something and to move toward this and to be passionate about it. And under stress, 9s look a little bit like 6s. Worried and anxious, trying to comply with all of the demands of the people around them, second guessing themselves, needing assurance. They can look a little fearful and timid, like 6s when they're not doing well. So that kind of gives you an idea how the lines work. Now, what's all this for? Well, it's helpful for us to know more about ourselves and to see kind of our default settings and realize that about 80% of the time, your personality type is working for you. It's helping you move toward what you want in life. It's making you a great manager, or making you a great performer, making you a great athlete. It's helping you stay focused on what you really want in life. But there's always about 20% of the time where these motivations and compulsions and impulses are getting you into trouble. It's the same ones. It's not good and bad. It's the same impulses that sometimes move you in a direction that's not really toward what you want in life. Keeps you maybe lazy, or keeps you from speaking up when you should, making you comply with other people when you shouldn't, or making you resist other people when you should comply. These same impulses at times are going to work against you. Learning to observe that and catch that and to be present with that, and then at times overriding what you would naturally do, what feels normal to you, to realize that there are many options that you could take in any given point in time. And the ones that seem natural to you are not always going to move you toward what you really want. And in this way, you're kind of waking up from a zombie state, as Beatrice Chestnut says in her book. You're waking up from this disengaged default setting and actually making decisions for yourself, actually deciding what you really want and saying, you know, there was a time when I might have yelled at the person next to me who's trying to help me, but I sort of tap myself on the head and I say, oh my goodness, you know, what I would normally do is not really going to move me toward what I really want. I really want close, intimate connections with others, and yelling at people who are trying to help me is not necessarily going to bring me that. So I've got to push back and resist what I would naturally be prone to do and choose a different path that's really going to move me toward what I want. And so this way, the Enneagram really helps us know more about ourselves. It helps us be more compassionate with ourselves and the people in life that are trying to love us and that we're trying to love. And you may say it a little bit like this. Once you understand your partner or your children's or your parents' numbers, you understand their types, maybe then you could get a little frustrated with their type and not always frustrated with them. Like, for example, if that 8 comes in the room and they just take over and take charge, they start grabbing stuff, you know, instead of being frustrated with Sally, saying, oh my gosh, I can't take Sally today. Oh my goodness, Sally's just overbearing. What you might say instead is something like, oh my goodness, 8s. You gotta laugh. You gotta love it. Look at the 8 stuff. You know, Sally is such an 8. And be frustrated with the type a little bit rather than the people, and have compassion for the people. You know, they may not even know they're an 8 or a 2 or a 7. They may not even know. They probably don't know. And you could just realize, like, they're kind of running a default script, you know, and instead of being angry all the time or frustrated or disappointed with the people around you, you can realize, you know, I'm such a 7 and most of my problems are because I'm a 7 feeling the stuff 7s feel. And when I get frustrated or tempted to get frustrated with the person in my life who's a 1 or a 5, I might say, wow, you know, 1s, just look at them, get so frustrated about everything in life. It must be awful to live in that head, you know, or 5s, oh, look at them being detached and withdrawn. It must be frustrating sometimes living in that with that personality. All of us are broken. We don't live in the Garden of Eden any longer. All of us are broken, and this is such a fantastic tool to help us gain some wisdom about the world around us, to understand people a little bit better, and hopefully that will improve our lives, moving toward our goals, and improve our relationships. If this is encouraging to you and helpful to you, please reach out to me. I would love to walk with you through your individualized journey to help you have the best life and the best relationships you can have. Remember, I'm a 7. I want you to be happy. I really want you to be happy, and I'm very positive that we can make some changes to move toward happiness in your life. Thank you guys for checking out this video, and as always, be present to life. Don't get so attached to the way things should be that you can't just be engaged in life as it is, and live your best life. I'll see you next time. Thank you guys.